Final letter. Hey guys, can you explain the difference between steampunk and cyberpunk? Which do you prefer? Steampunk and cyberpunk. Just because I have more experience with cyberpunk, I'm more of a cyberpunk person. But I haven't read a lot of steampunk, or watched a lot of steampunk that's worked, and we've talked through that on this show. So clearly, cyberpunk has been easier to adapt into. In some cases, we're not going to talk about Ghost in the Shell, the new movie. But yeah, I mean, I think they're two sides of the same coin in a lot of ways. You've got the hyper futuristic, and then you've got the retro futuristic. So, I mean, I don't even know if there's a preference to be made.
I'll say one difference, and I'm a word guy, I'm a writer, and so this is something that occurs to me. Is that cyberpunk is actually a good label. It's a fairly descriptive label of the literature. Because you've got the cyber,
Yeah.
you got the high tech, and you got the punk. You got the outcasts and the outlaws. And steampunk was a sort of an off-the-cuff, well, cyberpunk's big now, Victorian era had a lot of steam, so let's call it steampunk. And he wasn't even thinking that it would become a long-term label. But it's not necessarily all that descriptive of either the aesthetic or the genre. It kind of points around it or points at it or, gets around it a bit, but it's not all that descriptive. And so that's one, just from an etymological standpoint, that's one difference that I see. I know there's all kinds of other punks. There's diesel punk, ray punk, atom punk, silk punk, which is like Asian steampunk. And I just heard of a new one called archaeopunk, which is like ancient civilizations, archaeopunk.
Nice.
Interesting.